They say failure can either break you or make you. For Daniel Shaw, failure was not just a chapter in his life, it was the very soil from which his greatest success was born. Yet, if you had seen him sitting alone on that rainy evening in his cramped one-room apartment, staring at a stack of unpaid bills and a pile of rejection letters, you would have thought this was the end of his story. His eyes, once full of youthful ambition, were now heavy with doubt. But what no one knew, not even Daniel himself, was that this darkest night was setting the stage for a dawn brighter than he had ever imagined. Daniel had always been different. Born in a lower middle-class neighborhood, the eldest son of a factory worker and a homemaker, he grew up watching his parents struggle to make ends meet. His father came home every evening exhausted, his hands stained with oil and grease from the machines he repaired. His mother quietly stretched every coin to feed her children. Daniel often looked at them and promised himself, "One day, I'll give them a life they deserve. One day, they will rest, and I will carry the burden." By the time he reached university, Daniel's dreams had outgrown the narrow lanes of his town. While his classmates dreamed of steady corporate jobs, he wanted something bigger. He wanted to be his own boss, to create something from nothing, to build a business that would not only change his life but also uplift others. His professors often warned him, "Daniel, business is not just about dreams, it's about risks." But he was young, fearless, and stubbornly hopeful. After graduating, he convinced his parents to let him use their lifelong savings along with a small loan from the bank. With that money, Daniel opened a clothing store in the city center. The first week was magical. Friends came to congratulate him, neighbors admired his courage, and his parents walked through the shop with tears of pride in their eyes. For a while, Daniel truly believed success was just around the corner. But reality is often harsher than ambition. Competition was fierce. Established stores with bigger brands offered discounts and deals he could never match. Customers came in, browsed his collection, praised the quality, and then walked out to buy from his rivals. Each passing week, his sales dropped. Rent piled up, bills mounted, and the bank called repeatedly. The very friends who once toasted his courage began avoiding him. His relatives, once proud, now whispered, "We told him business isn't for everyone." The final blow came one night when he returned home and saw his mother crying silently in the kitchen. His father sat quietly, eyes lowered, his pride wounded. Their years of sacrifice, their savings meant for a secure old age, were gone. Daniel felt his chest tighten with guilt. He had failed not just himself but the very people who had believed in him the most. The shop closed within a year. Daniel sold whatever he could to pay back a fraction of his debts. He moved into a dingy apartment with peeling paint and a leaky roof. To survive, he worked odd jobs, carrying boxes at a warehouse, cleaning offices, delivering food on his old motorbike. Each night he returned home exhausted, collapsing on a thin mattress, haunted by the voice inside him that whispered, "Maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you should give up." But deep inside, a spark refused to die. One night, while flipping through an old book he had borrowed from a library, a single line struck him like lightning: "Failure is not the opposite of success, it is a part of success." He sat there for hours, staring at those words. Slowly, he began to realize that he had not failed because he was incapable, he had failed because he was unprepared. He had jumped into the ocean without learning to swim. The next day, Daniel made a vow. He would try again, but this time, he would not repeat his mistakes. He worked nights at a logistics company to earn money and spent his days learning. He devoured books on business, marketing, and finance. He enrolled in free online courses and attended workshops he could barely afford. He even stood in long lines at public libraries just to use their computers to access lectures and case studies. What fascinated him most was the rise of the digital world. Shopping habits were changing. People no longer wanted to spend hours in crowded markets, they wanted convenience, variety, and trust online. At the same time, Daniel noticed something else. Local artisans in his community, incredibly skilled at making handmade crafts, furniture, and clothing, had no platform to showcase their work. They struggled to sell their goods, often settling for unfair prices. A thought began to take root. What if I build an online marketplace for them? A place where their talent meets the world's demand. But ideas need fuel, and Daniel had no capital. Still, he had something stronger this time: knowledge, resilience, and a will forged in fire. He started small. With the little savings he had from his night job, he bought a cheap laptop. He designed a simple website himself, staying awake for nights learning web design through YouTube tutorials. He visited local artisans, convincing them to let him showcase their products on his platform. Many refused, laughing at him, saying, "Who will buy from a failed businessman?" But a few, touched by his sincerity, agreed. The first month, he got only 3 orders. Daniel packed the products himself, biked through heavy rain, and delivered them to customers. Sometimes the profit was so small that after fuel expenses, he had barely anything left. Yet, unlike before, he did not lose hope. Every sale was a step forward. Every satisfied customer was proof that he was on the right track. Months turned into a year. Slowly, word spread about his little online store. Customers appreciated the quality and uniqueness of the handmade goods. More artisans joined his platform. His profits grew, modestly but steadily. Daniel reinvested every penny back into the business, upgrading his website, improving delivery, and training artisans on quality standards. There were setbacks, of course, packages lost in transit, angry customers, technical failures. There were nights when he lay awake wondering if it was all worth it. But unlike his first venture, he now had resilience. Every problem became a lesson, every obstacle an opportunity. He reminded himself constantly, "I cannot afford to give up again." Within 3 years, Daniel's online marketplace had grown into one of the most trusted platforms in the region. Investors who once ignored him now knocked on his door. He repaid his parents' savings in full, with interest, and bought them a small house where they could live in peace. The same relatives who once mocked him now proudly introduced him as the successful businessman of the family. But Daniel's true pride was not the wealth he earned, it was the hundreds of artisans whose lives he had changed. Craftsmen who once struggled to feed their families were now shipping their products nationwide. Young people who once wandered jobless in his community were now working in his growing company. One evening, standing on the balcony of his new office building, Daniel looked out at the city lights. The same rain fell, just as it had on the night of his lowest point. But this time, his heart was not heavy, it was full of gratitude. He whispered to himself, "Failure didn't destroy me. It built me." Daniel's journey became a living testament to the truth that success is never born in comfort, it is carved out of pain, persistence, and unshakable faith. He often told young dreamers who came to him for advice, "Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is not the end, it is the beginning of a better you. What matters is that you rise again, stronger, wiser, and unstoppable." And so, the boy who once sat alone in a dark room, drowning in debt and shame, became the man whose story inspired thousands. His journey from failure to fortune was not just about business, it was about resilience, redemption, and the power of never giving up.